Mr. Burke, second. Motion carried 5-0. Mrs. Harrison, a motion to accept the nomination of Laura Crawley as Director of Food Services at a salary of $50,000 for 2018-2019. Mr. McDonald, second. Motion carried 5-0. Mrs. Harrison made a motion to accept the nomination of Julie Green as Library Media Specialist for CHS at a salary of $45,231 for the 2018-2019 year. Mr. McDonald, second. Motion carried 5-0. I do not believe we have any presentations or recognitions this evening. So that'll bring us right to CHS Library Naming Proposal. I believe there should be some students here.
So do you want us to plug in?
Sure.
I'll move to it. Yeah. Oh. This may be the best spot.
You have to talk into that.
Yeah, that's the next.
Okay, thank you. It was just there. Is it over here? Do you need the remote? Oh, okay.
Oh, no, I guess not.
She's a media specialist. She can figure this out.
It's really the job, and as you know.
You're the last one. I know they're coming again.
He said he was going to come to give you process.
Alrighty. Hi.
Hi.
So I've met you guys before and we talked about the tree. So
Could you just state your name again? For
Oh, yeah.
people listening? You're live on YouTube right now, so.
Oh, yay. So I'm Abigail Gray. I go to Campbell. I'm a junior. And today I'm here because we're asking you to dedicate the library to Dr. Angie and create a new name and call it the Dr. Angie Learning Commons. So the purpose of this is a senior project of Maddie Trevans and I, which she should be here shortly, but our focus is continuing her legacy and inspiring hope and aspirations in the lives of Campbell students. So what the Learning Commons is supposed to be for our school is another space for students to focus on their learning, on other activities, group projects, and just being able to do one-on-one things with themselves and teachers. So it's mainly just a better environment of a library. And yeah. So as you can see on the left is a classic library space. On the right is a Learning Commons that has a lot of different movable furniture and has many different areas for students to collaborate and to be able to do individual learning and one-on-one things like I had said.
And thanks to you guys, we did meet today. Abby and I sat down with a gentleman from the same place that Amy at LMS sat down with and are going to get some quotes for moving forward and getting some of these new furnishings in to replace the old things that feel like they're going to break as soon as you sit on top of them.
Do you have a diagram of what you want your Learning Commons to look like?
Right now, we don't.
It took me about 10 minutes to go through both charts. I'm looking at it saying, okay, it doesn't look right. You change the walls or
Yeah.
okay, it's not yours.
On
No.
Friday, we will have one.
Okay.
So on Friday, I will share it with all of you so that you can kind of see the ideas that Abby and I shared with the gentleman from School Furnishings, I believe it was, and kind of show you the ideas that we have to have different areas, be for a smart board, another place for the large group kind of getting together, but also some breakout rooms so that kids who need to have the quiet will also have that. That would be though more so in the future, but our different ideas that we're going to be presenting.
So what are the snakes?
So the snakes are actually, today I saw one in one of the booklets that the guy had presented to us. It's honestly just movable furniture. There's 2 tables on the side and everything about a Learning Commons is movable.
Right.
You have one person sitting in this snake of a seat and you've got everyone filling this one. You can move them around to sit in a group and collaborate. You can turn them into circles, anything you want, put your stuff on it, just about comfort for kids.
And movable learning.
Yeah.
We talked about one thing where you're doing a small little lecture in front of a TV screen, kind of like what we have right here. But then if we need to move it over here to have a bigger space, we can move it over. So easy to reconfigure things and easy to clean. That was the other big thing.
Yeah.
The big things that we were focused on with the gentleman today was easy to clean and durable, because we don't want to be going back 3 years from now and asking for more funds. We want to make sure that this is going to last another 15, 18 years.
So you mentioned a whiteboard. Will it be stationary?
It would be. I was talking a little bit with Jason about some possibilities. that may or may not happen, but similar to what they have at LMS, where it's a touchscreen whiteboard where they can pipe in, take their Chromebooks, just like we're doing right now, bring it on up on the screen and do lectures, kind of bringing the learning from the classrooms down into the library.
Would you do that where the fish tank is over in that corner?
That was one idea. The other idea was right outside of where the office used to be. There's a shelf there right now, but that would make it so it would give us the widest amount of area.
So you could have more seating. That would be awesome.
And that would also be very easy to implement because there's already power and the ports. Whereas over by where the fish tank is, we only have power. So kind of looking at ease and making sure that we're not going to be spending too much on just infrastructure changes.
Great.
So you mentioned in the beginning that everything is movable, but the whiteboard's not. So I'm just wondering, is it because of lack of space?
No, it would be because it would be ceiling mounted.
I
So
realize
smart.
that wouldn't be ceiling mounted, but would you be better off with one that moved?
Possibly. Jason and I, Mr. Pelletier and I just started discussing.
Well, I'm
it.
just wondering because I know that at GMS they have one.
Yeah, hers is movable, isn't it?
Yeah.
So that would be something for us to look at as well.
But I mean, I don't know how much space it takes up,
Yeah. No. Good suggestion.
especially when you're saying that, the configuration changes. It's fluid all the time. It's just, are you better off with having more than one where you can be in different areas?
I would check with Melina. I know she was planning to move it up against a wall. So
Who was?
Melina,
I know.
That's what I'm wondering. If
was
it takes up
thinking
that
of-
much space,
yeah.
you're probably better off throwing it on the wall than you are.
or moving the portable one.
And I also know down at
Just
GMS, it was always a concern that the kids were going to knock into it or hit their head. And granted, little kids, you're a little bit more concerned with that than the high schoolers most of the time.
Yeah.
No, they
You
do more
never know,
damage.
honestly.
So, but definitely those are good ideas to have and to keep on
Yeah.
working together to figure out what's going to work best for the space and for the students in the community moving forward.
How are those black leather pleather couches held up?
Not that bad.
I was just
I've
curious.
seen a few people take some naps on them, but that's besides the point. So they do have the comfort, but they do pretty well because I'll sit on them and like clearly you don't have a desk in front of you, but if you sit on the side, there's like a
Because you were
wobble,
talking
movable like little
like
desk.
that would be better than fabric. I don't know. I was just curious what you consider cleanable. That would be cleanable to me.
He
But
didn't
they're
get to
kinda
bring
flimsy.
the fabric. Yeah, he didn't get to bring the fabric, but he did definitely tell us about how like cleaning it, wiping it down is way easier. You don't have to worry about like we talked about if milk spills. If
Are you
someone
going to
does have
allow
something.
food in there?
That is the long-term plan
Okay.
of allowing it because a learning commons is a place where, if you're not comfortable in the cafeteria for some reason, you could come and eat. And also another part of it is having water and like maybe some drinks that they can have.
Okay.
So that would be
Starbucks.
nice. It'd be nice if we could have a Barnes and Nobles pretty much.
I
theme.
suggested a little coffee bar.
I suggested
Step
donuts
up.
like last year.
Some
Yeah.
revenue.
Oh.
Yeah, just a little bit. An espresso machine, some stuff like that. But
No, it's got to be done.
That'd be Dunkin's. We had a conversation today about how much they spent at Dunkin' Donuts.
too much.
And that's why I said the amount of money that you could make.
We're talking some funds out there. But so, like I said, what we just saw were two different layouts of a library and a learning commons. But it's about making these small changes, and this comes with the name change that we're asking for today. With the name change, we would like to have like a name changing plate that will present to everyone when they walk into the library about the name. And we would like to change the quote that's above the library, that's above the red doors and next to the windows, and have something say about the Dr. Angie Learning Commons. So for the future, because we know this isn't going to happen like over the summer about changing the whole library, but Dr. Angie was always telling me on how people in the library were too loud and how like she always wanted to like just kind of like blank and like it just turned into like this quiet space where like if there's a group of people doing work, they're doing their work. If there's people doing a project, they're doing a group project and they're not being too loud. They have a space for them to go. We actually have old like media lab that we had 2 years ago. last year. And I've gone in there personally, used the whiteboard, used the smartboard, and did a presentation to like a few groups of people that are in my class because I was really nervous to go in front of like my larger community class. So that helped me break it down, and I like consider that like a little change and a little step for us to have a learning commons. So students are drawn to spaces that are open, inviting, and stimulating, spaces where they become fully engaged in the conversation and the excitement of sharing new ideas. Personally, as a student at Campbell, the library is a good library, but it's just to bring it one more step closer to a learning commons and to have that like open, like almost like an invitation, like, hey, come in the library, like let's go do something, like let's go learn something, let's go do like a project. And you don't even have to have anything to do. We have like these little mini projects and like activities that are like set up around the library that are, like you see a lot of people doing. And we added puzzles, and a lot of people come in and do the puzzles.
And they put together a roller coaster last week. So we used Connects, and they built a motorized roller coaster that they've all been kind of watching and figuring out. And at one point, there wasn't enough power behind it to keep catching onto the chain. And so they figured out how to reconfigure it. So it's been some really cool, interesting conversations that they've had with the different maker spaces ideas that we started to integrate into the Learning Commons.
That's it. So
we go back to, like you mentioned, a plaque
yes.
or a nameplate.
Yes.
What would the nameplate say?
Not that I have like too much written down about that, but we want to like tell people why a Learning Commons was like an idea from Dr. Angie and why she like emphasized it so much. I did a learning opportunity with her for a semester, and I did projects about how Learning Commons like made students like feel more comfortable in their school. And with that being said, I was like, that would be awesome for our school, but we knew that like couldn't blink and have it happen overnight. So we want to do these small tweakable changes and make it happen.
Okay. And then you mentioned something about it as far as taking the saying off. It's above the doorway now.
Right.
And replace that with.
Would you have that be where it would just say Learning Commons or Dr. Angie Learning Commons? Is that what?
Dr. Angie Learning Commons was what I would like to like envision there.
Okay.
So I guess minimum would be to just change it to a Learning Commons, but then also if it could be called the Dr. Angie Learning Commons.
Right, because that was her spot. That was her place. So.
Is there any precedence for naming buildings or places?
There isn't. No, we haven't named anything in any of the schools except for the schools. And that's my first main concern. That it's been longstanding that at all the schools that they don't name rooms or fields after individuals. I know you planted a tree for her in an area. Have you thought of maybe just that area, like maybe putting a plaque out there? Or
we definitely can do that. What we did have in mind for looking out in the courtyard, we were creating a sea glass plaque, which was going to have, another student and Miss Green are like creating and like dedicating to her as well. But right when you look out into the courtyard, you're going to be looking through the sea glass, which just does represent the fact that like she's still there and like every day we're looking at the sea glass because that was like what she loved to do other than being at school.
Yeah.
So that's just another thing that we have that is dedicated to her at the school.
So going back to the, what was it? You said like a plaque or something with information. You don't have detail on that as of yet, right? Exactly what the verbiage would be.
No, but we definitely can get that to you when we have it.
I mean, could that be without naming?
Well, that's what I'm wondering. I don't know what
Could it be
exactly.
in the library, so it's
Right. That's what I'm thinking. Maybe something that, stands out, like Dr. Ames, what her philosophy was or her thought process was. Right.
I was really hands-on with her about the Learning Commons with doing the ELO with her. And like, she just emphasized it so much and loved the fact that like these students, she actually has a LinkedIn, one of those. And I looked it up and like, she just talks about Learning Commons in the libraries and just transforming them and like how much like they could further education and comfort for students at school. So it wasn't just like us doing something. She even did it on her own individual time. Not sure if that was for her other education purposes, but.
Could be a combination, right?
Yeah.
I think the board might want to have more conversation as far as, like I said, changing the name, only because it would be setting a precedent and something we haven't done.
Okay.
But I'd like to know what your plaque might, what it may say, and
Yeah.
maybe we decide that maybe that can go inside the library, maybe, stop there.
Okay.
So once you have that for us, you can just, submit it
We'll
to
be
us.
back
And
here.
take a, yeah. Or
Alright.
just submit it to us. We can take a look at it and then bring you back in when we need to.
Okay.
That'd be great.
I wonder. I mean, you had a couple of quotes in your presentation. I wonder if we have a quote from Andrea
We've
that
been
we could
working on
paint
that.
instead of that quote.
The school has actually asked like Maddie and I and Miss Green and like other students that were working with her about taking a quote from her and putting it on the back of the graduation. What is it called? Brochures. Program. Yeah. So we're
Or-
still working on
I have a
that.
few
Even a quote
quotes.
from her stenciling inside the,
Right, but it
The
might be a
comments.
way to, to frame it as her learning commons without
Calling it that.
having it to name.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? To
Yeah.
name the space.
They came up with something.
Did they?
Off the top of my head, I don't remember it. There's a lot going on this morning, but there is one that went to print this morning that talked about her belief in every person's potential.
Oh, 100%.
And so they found one kind of based on some of the key things that we had talked about. And so that might be, a perfect thing to change whatever is up there right now.
or even not change what's up there, and maybe even insert hers inside, or could be inside the commons itself.
True.
Right.
Over
Right.
top of it on the other side.
Yeah.
You could just add more, make it look better. Don't have to take away anything.
I think it's a big deal.
So we'll get you back with the plaque information. I'll also provide you guys with the information about kind of the idea. I don't know if I need to, but I will be working with Bill and we'll keep you guys in the loop, and also with Corey. And I'll work with the girls to get that information back to you guys and we can meet again.
Excellent.
That's awesome. I just have one other question related to learning commons. I read something in the multitude of materials that we had that had library stats in it.
Yep.
And I'm wondering if with the change to the learning commons format or layout, are you expecting an increase in library attendance? I mean, obviously you have the classes that regularly come in, but with this type of an atmosphere, I really think that it's going to be more welcoming and more kids might go there.
Right.
I think the biggest decline that I've seen from last year to this year is that there's less classes that come down because they have their Chromebooks. That being said, one of the things that is a focus that I'm going to start working on is making sure that they have access to all of our materials online, because we have so many wonderful references that they can reach just by opening up their Chromebook and going to the website, making sure they're aware of it. And myself going up to the classroom, making sure that they understand what's available so that they're getting quality resources that they're using when they're doing projects. But then what ends up happening is that the Learning Commons becomes something where one-on-one I can learn about Abby and what she's interested in, and then bring things in that maybe is not taught in the traditional educational structure, but her and I can start working on the fact that she has these different interests and trying to work on those and building the relationship with the kids. So that's kind of where Learning Commons is going to. It's more of those one-on-one, okay, you're not maybe getting this in the classroom. How can we continue and kind of get you what you need so that you are getting the full potential out of Campbell?
They used to go down there all the time to use the laptops and the Chromebooks. And once they got their own, there was no need. And the chairs, it's not very comfortable down there. The chairs are falling apart and there really isn't a place for the kids to spread out.
Right. I'm thinking just like project work, groups working together and that
We've
kind of stuff.
even,
I think once you make it an atmosphere that's more
Absolutely.
inviting, that
Yeah.
you will see an influx of people utilizing it. So it brings me
think
back
they
to
use
something
it.
I'd asked before,
Especially during lunch.
especially where you're going to be going like lower shelving, it's probably fewer shelves.
What?
Are you going to purge books?
There is already
Oh.
some going on,
Tables are
especially
crooked.
ones that are kind of getting moldy or,
I know there's a report we can get as far as how many books are like taken out of the library or utilized. Why are you laughing, Liz?
Because she counted them all 2 years ago.
and I'm doing another inventory right now.
I guess like one of the first questions, can you do a report and get a listing of books that aren't taken out?
So you want a list
Well,
of
I don't
what's
want
in
it. I'm
there.
just asking if you can do it.
I can pull all sorts of different reports for
The
you.
reason I asked, I know like one of the first things that I'd ask, I think Dr. Angus once, the first thing when you walk in the library, you go to the left, there like several sets of Britannica encyclopedias. Oh,
Yeah,
And we have it
someone must want
online.
them.
right.
Everything's
Worth money
online.
someday.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
That's,
you know,
that's
instead
my
of buying
point.
them,
I just
That's
think
my
about
point.
moldy books.
Encyclopedia
Moldy
Britannica
books.
is out of date as soon as it's printed now. And yet, I don't know how old those versions are that you have in the library.
well, I think the oldest one is maybe 2011.
Okay.
So some of the ones, what we're doing is we're actually making crafts out of things right now.
Not
I'd
the
be
moldy
surprised.
ones.
No, it's
Really
recycling
crafty.
things.
Yeah.
And so making sure though that we still have that knowledge. So we have it now online. And so the kids can find that most up-to-date information by logging into their Chromebook, going to the library website, clicking on the World Book, and they have everything there. And another thing is working on it to make sure that they know how to do it at GMS, and then they know how to use it at LMS,
Yep.
so that when they get to Campbell, we
To
can focus on
Bruce.
other resources that we have because they already know how to use World Book.
Vertical
So
alignment.
making sure that throughout all the schools, we've got that alignment and we're teaching the kids stuff that not only will they use here while they're here in Litchfield, but also once they get out there into college or whatever they choose to do after school.
Are we still buying books for the library?
We are. The nonfiction, I'm starting to focus on ebooks so that once again, as they're doing research, they'll have it right there on their Chromebook.
Yep.
And then we still get some of the most popular fiction books. We've kind of scaled back over the years. When I'm looking at Andrea's budget, she's been kind of scaling back, but we still have them there and they still get taken out. You know, it is amazing. We still have kids coming. At first, I thought your question was, do kids still check out books? And we do still have kids who check them out. But it is mostly the fiction books, the ones that they want to, you know, sit down in their classroom, you know, they're done with their projects, so then they start to read. So that's kind of where I'm focusing on buying. Whereas for nonfiction, I really do see that, especially since they're not coming to the library as much, having them online
Yep.
is better. And then I still make a cart for them. And so they did a Shakespeare project and up went a cart on with all the Shakespeare books. There was something for health, and I pulled all the books that might be the possible topics and sent those down. So there are the different options. They want to have them. Some kids still like to have paper in hand.
I do.
Some kids want to go online. So having the two different ways for them to search for their information.
I'm not a child or kid, but I do like that paper in hand too.
I do too.
Yeah.
I still read books and I just enjoy it. And I find it much more challenging if I don't have that book in my hand. I like to be able to put it away. So I want to comment on two things that you said. I'm really excited about the Learning Commons and the changes that are going on in our whole district and the high school. And it's really exciting to see us moving to a model of, you know, really inviting all of our students in there and having all different kinds of activities, makers areas, reading areas, technology areas, just places where kids can come and just sit and relax and learn. But the other thing you said that I think is so critical for our society as we go forward was you're going into classrooms and trying to explain to students the difference between, you didn't quite say it this way, sources that are vetted, that have good information versus, as many people would say, going to the echo chamber and getting information that just reflects back what you already think. So I think critical thinking is becoming more and more of an absolute that we make sure we endow our children with before they graduate from our schools. And I applaud the idea that the more you can do to help kids be critical thinking, the better off we're going to be as a society. So thank you.
Thank you.
Does anyone have any other questions?
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Are you guys going to need this? I don't believe basketball is here, correct?
I guess not.
Okay. That brings us to correspondence.
We did receive one letter
Huh.
From a young Mr. Logan Barca. Pull that up. There, should I read it?
It's kind of lengthy. You can summarize.
It's a little lengthy. Logan was very much upset and wrote to LMS and the school board to reconsider moving Ms. Lemay. She was my favorite teacher and an amazing language arts teacher. He speaks of her making lessons fun, and he saw himself improving so much in language arts because of her and more than any other teacher. In enrichment, she would tell us funny stories about her and Brick, her dog. And she says she is even the first teacher to go to my soccer games and cheer us on. She was our track coach too. So he's very upset, and he says there are many other students, and I am upset as well. And I responded to Logan, and I said that, you know, it was a very tough situation, and Ms. might resign so that she could keep teaching middle schoolers, and that we will miss her very much, and that she was an excellent teacher, and we hope that I certainly hope that our paths someday cross again. And
You never know. There could be an opening next year for her.
yeah,
Hopefully.
that would be wonderful. Do you have a copy of that, Michelle?
She does.
Okay.
He did send it to the school board, and Michelle, he failed to send it to the middle school.
I have a copy.
So I forwarded.
Oh, I see.
I forwarded to Tom.
Oh, okay. Thank you. And it was very well written.
It
which
was.
is evidence
It
of
was.
his progress in language arts.
Yes.
True.
It is difficult when, you know, decisions have to be made of good teachers that, and actually the decision was made on her part because she's the one who resigned. She was offered a position, unfortunately not at the middle school, but in kindergarten. So, but like I said, hopefully our paths will cross again and maybe there'll be something for her.
Yep, I wish her the best.
All right, that brings us to superintendent comments.
I'd like to lead with, had the pleasure of going to the high school academic awards celebration last night, and it is one of those celebrations I thoroughly enjoy every year, and I've been here at Campbell, Litchfield, at Campbell High School, and it always, in my mind, is such a good example of the triangle that we need to make public schools better. That being the parents are sitting there, the students are sitting there, and the educators are sitting there. And if we can put those three individual groups together more often and have them dialogue more in positive ways, we just improve education. And last night they had the teachers that the student chose go up and say some beautiful words, some quite poignant, some funny, and all over the place. And then to have the students go up and have the parents sitting there and enjoying it and have a chance to talk to the parents. I just want to say it's truly a great event every year. And I know the board members have gone in the past, and I'd urge the board members to continue to attend, because I think you really would enjoy that event. And Liz was with me last night. We had a secret dinner date.
Yes, we did.
Unbeknownst to ourselves.
With Dave Jingris in between us.
At any rate, it was fun, and thank you, Mr. Lonigan, for continuing that tradition, and congratulations to the parents, the students, and the teachers for a wonderful tradition.
It was outstanding.
The other thing, we had a request from a board member, I was not here last week, regarding some information on competencies. Michelle put together that information and shared it with the board in terms of the number of, and this is at the high school, the number of competencies that were passed by grade level and the number of competencies that were not passed by grade level. And it wasn't just the high school, I shouldn't say that. And, or was it? Was it just the high school?
Just the high
Yeah,
school.
just the high school, yeah. And I think the overwhelming data there would suggest that 95+% of students pass competencies as they go through, and some students do not. I think there was also some indication of certain areas where competencies seem to be more of a challenge for students than other areas. And when I looked at the areas, it somewhat tends to be those concrete sequential kinds of areas, or areas of mathematics and things that like that. I don't have any answer for it. I just would say that I think as we go forward, the district does need to revisit competencies and take a look at competencies and how we define competencies and how we assess competencies. And I think that's good work for the district to look into over the next several years. And that would be my comment about it. And I don't have anything else at this point in time, but thank you.
I had asked for it, Jim.
Okay.
and when I got it, it was great seeing it. Thanks, Michelle. Great. I guess one of my questions would be, it seems now that we have it, it'd be nice to see a progression for like 4 years to see if there's a trend, to see, their best practices. And we mentioned, I think twice now, continuity between the schools, both with the library and learning. To me, if the middle school is going to competencies, what a great opportunity now. I'm assuming we're on Common Core C3 to make sure, we're hitting the right things, to make sure there's a progression through the schools. It was just one of those things, and I loved looking, it was great looking at it, but I could picture, and I know it's one semester, and I just asked for, honestly, I didn't expect we'd get it so soon. To me, this is something, instead of grade 9, 10, 11, 12, semester 1, if it was like an ongoing spreadsheet for 4 or 6 years to show trends and factors, because I think competencies are still a challenge for a lot of families, a lot of kids, probably a lot of teachers too. And I think it'd be nice, to see that, to see where our kids are excelling, where our kids are struggling, and drill down and say, why are they struggling? Why are they?
And I think, the board and Dr. Jetty will be having some conversations about goals over the summer, I'm sure, probably earlier in the summer. And you might take an evening and just meet around that focal point, or a couple of goals. And if that's where the board feels as a group that they really need to focus more, and the superintendent's input on that, then I would think it would be a really good focus for us. I think that Bill and I have had some conversations about competencies. And I know the NEASC committee just visited, and I'm sure they asked questions about that too. So there is a lot of different sources of information, I think, Rob, over the next couple of months that will be bringing together more information. And certainly, if that's where the board feels that the board needs to go, then Dr. Jetty will have that as one of his areas. I think you have some familiarity in that area. Is that fair to say?
We're talking about vertical alignment. There's a lot of repetition, and there are big gaps, especially in social studies, as far as I'm
I
concerned.
think that the conversation needs to be a real in-depth conversation. And I think that, if that's where you want to go with Mike, I think that it's not a conversation we can really do much with in a
No.
brief. I think you need to have a couple of hours to talk about goals, and if that's one of the major areas. Do you have conferences in Bedford now? And I believe you have been doing that for a while. So I do think that Mike can add a lot more to this conversation than I can, and have a lot more direction for the district than I would be able to have.
And our curriculum director is pretty well versed in it too. So once she gets on board.
So I think you're aligned, Rob. What I'm saying is I think the district is aligned now to have that discussion and have the expertise within the district to really be helpful. And the board can then evaluate where it wants to go. And I think that that's a good thing for Litchfield to be able to have that kind of a conversation over the next year or two.
How many years have we had competencies? And did I hear that we were one of the first to adopt them?
I think we opened
Is that
with them,
correct?
Yeah, Campbell's always been competency based.
right? I think we opened with them.
We opened with them.
But there are different interpretations of competencies. They don't have finals. We have finals. There are all different interpretations of what
What they are.
they are. So we can talk about what Mike thinks it is.
Okay.
Whatever, what we think it is.
I do have to point out, because I think it is a problem across the board from kindergarten to college, when we mentioned digital citizenship earlier and making sure the kids realize what's beneficial online. And I would like to see that really hammered home from kindergarten on, what you can and can't trust online. And I think that's important. The kids don't get that enough.
And to some extent, you also have work being done in the district around grading. And that work has to be talked about in a great deal of depth, because, grading can be all the way from the more traditional kind of a focal point that we currently have to a much more progressive view of grading, where even A, B, C's, and D's are no longer assigned. So that's going to have to be a decision that's going to require some thought. So I think those two things will kind of mesh together, the whole dialogue around grading and the whole dialogue around competencies. And it's a major philosophical and operational decision that the board's going to have to make. And I think you should devote some time, if you think that's a really important subject, and really have an opportunity to look into that. The grading dialogue has been going on for 2 years. And quite candidly, it hasn't progressed as far this year as we'd hoped it would. But there has been a dialogue. There has been some reading. There has been some other things done. And I think that's ready to get picked up once we get into competencies and grading perhaps in the coming year. But again, that's the board and the new superintendent's decision. And that's all I have to say, Mr.
That's
Chair.
it. Good. That brings us community forum. No one? All right. School board comments? Anyone?
I'll say, I can't remember if I said it, but I was really impressed with a lot of the kids' presentations on the senior project night. Some of the kids were really into the project and
Yeah.
done it well.
Lynn Nagy and Ryan Kelly, the two senior project managers who took over midstream, really are doing a nice job, even now at the beginning of the year, prepping the juniors for next year. So we've seen some challenges, going to recognize that. And we also, Lynn is actually tonight, Bedford is doing one of their senior project nights, I believe tonight, or she did it last night, I'm not sure, but she was going to report back to me because there are other schools like South Egan who does one, who seems to have a fairly comprehensive one. So we're going to do a little research on what happened in other districts as well. But you're right, there were some really terrific presentations and projects by students, and there were some that probably need some more rigor to them. Yeah.
And I feel like we talk about continuity, and I feel like public speaking and presentation is something that so far, at least for my kids, started in elementary school. And I think that they've done a fabulous job. There have been numerous opportunities for them to public speak, and I think that's so important. So I feel like that's something that has continuity in our district. So that's great.
A lot of healthy esteem, kids with a healthy self-esteem in this town that I didn't have at that age, to be able to get up and speak. Look, even Abby and Maddie, all the girls and boys that have spoken. It's pretty awesome.
So my only comment is I want to give a shout out to the Booster Club.
Oh, yes.
I'm certain people have driven by the high school. It's amazing how fast that structure has gone up. And actually, the Booster Club is doing very well as far as collecting donations, to the point where they still haven't even had a conversation with a major donor. And they've been able to raise enough funds and still have an excess of funds right now. To continue going
Through the bricks?
Alone. They made
through the bricks, through contributions.
They made like $4,000 last week in bricks.
What's that?
They made a ton of money in bricks just last week.
I'm sure.
It's amazing.
But it's also monies that they're looking for to continue going towards the field and improving the field. But it's nice that the first step is almost accomplished, and it really fell within their budget easily. And I think it's going to be a great thing for us to have at that field.
It looks awesome.
That staging. Mike, I'm not sure if you're aware or not, but what we used to have was just metal staging. As you would see, someone going up to paint a building or something. Yeah, with a couple planks up there.
And my husband is not a thin man up there with the camera with two other not so thin men, and it was scary to watch it. Throw Jared up there.
But I think it's great. I mean, they came to us last year, with this vision and idea, and I mean, Kara's just done a wonderful job as far as getting it going, and I think it's fantastic.
No, I was just saying, I was over there today, and there was a concrete truck, and they were pouring concrete flooring and stuff like that down. But it's another example of, I think, in Litchfield, one of the wonderful
These are
community
dads.
school relationship that exists, and the fact that the community will really come to help out the public schools in ways that a lot of communities really won't. So you're going to have a fabulous looking press block. It's going to look great, and it's an attribute to our community in terms of their willingness to really help out the public school and the children of the public school. So thank you very much to the members of the community.
Those are dads out there on weekends with their own. It's amazing.
Yeah. Well, they were
Hey,
there
Moms.
tonight when I left to come over here. There were still people there. A pickup truck was pulled up, and some guys were finishing up doing the flooring, and they were. I can't remember the terms, but finishing the flooring and stuff.
Wow.
Really neat, and I'm really impressed. I have to tell you, I was a little bit of a skeptic that this was going to get done this year. And
Yeah.
I'm really impressed.
Any other comments? Hearing none?
Actually,
Oh,
I have
yes.
something for you. At the last meeting, there was mention of looking into training for negotiations.
Tara was asking about that.
And I did. I reached out to NHSBA, who they had not done their training this year for some unknown reason. They're willing to send over their attorney, and our attorney is available as well, except our attorney's not available on July 18th, which is our meeting in July. He is available in August, but Mr. Phillips from the NHSBA doesn't want the board to wait that long. So I suggested to Attorney Elwell, our attorney, if he were available, maybe July 11th, the board could get together for an hour or so in non-public and go ahead with their training. It's up to the board what they want to do.
I'm on vacation that week.
Well, that's okay. We can just
Week for vacation.
give
Yeah.
things around.
That 4th of July through
Vacation.
15th of July, that's a tough time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you can see if there's other dates, it doesn't necessarily have to be a Wednesday.
Okay.
So if they're flexible as far as
Yeah,
other dates,
anytime.
not within that week,
Anytime, just not the week.
All
Yeah.
right. You know what I'll do is I'll reach out to all the board members
yeah,
first.
find out who's on vacation
See
when.
who's on vacation, and then I'll get together and.
Yep.
And then we'll solidify it.
That is great.
Yeah.
Okay.
And like I said, I don't think it necessarily has to be on a Wednesday either.
Okay.
Oh, no, I agree. And I collected a number of resources I've just put on a Google Drive for myself. Is that something I can share with the whole board? I mean, there's any reason why I can't?
What's that? I'm sorry, I missed what you said.
Information you found about negotiating?
Online, just like
Yeah, you can forward.
PDFs and resources, and I just wanted to share it with the board if I could do that. Okay. All right, I'll email everybody.
All right. So we have 2 sets of minutes for approval. Just lost them. May 23rd, 2018, public hearing.
Make a motion to approve the minutes from the public hearing on May 23rd.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstain. We have a set of minutes from May 23rd, 2018.
Which have been amended.
All right.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from May 23rd.
Is there a second?
I second.
All right, any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Boy, it's like slow motion rolling down the hill here. Opposed, abstain. We have budget transfers that need approval.
I had a couple of questions on those. One was the account correction for $2,000. I just wondered what account that was and what that correction is.
I
Before
can't.
he's not here.
Corey's not here this evening.
Okay.
He had a family he had to take care of. So if you could email Corey
Sure.
and he will respond. And
Okay.
if it's a public question, so we'll respond to all board members
Yeah.
with that question.
Okay.
And if there are any other public questions, please feel free to contact Corey and we'll respond in a public email to everybody. And then you can share those with the public at large at our next board meeting.
Okay.
But I guess it's exactly what it states. It was probably taken from one account and
To
should have
another
gone to a
account.
different account.
Yeah. And then there was another one.
That's athletics, by the way.
That was.
1420,
athletics.
that's athletics. From
Okay.
miscellaneous to-dos, it looks
Yeah.
like.
Oh, okay. Oh, that makes, well, I don't know. Okay. And then there was another one that the comment on it was need bus money for away GMS. It was a $4,000 transfer. That was the other question that I had.
Do you know what date?
Yeah.
Oh, I see it.
If you know what that might be.
What is it?
It was a budget transfer on May 8th for $4,000, and the comment on it just says need bus money for away GMS.
I don't.
Okay.
And I would assume too, there's a lot more than just one trip.
Right.
Well, that's a CHS account, so maybe he made a typo, it should be CHS.
Maybe.
Well, why don't we
Can you?
have
Ask
Corey respond to those, or if you want to wait till your next
It could
board
be
meeting, you
away
can certainly
games or whatever.
explain
Yeah, it could
those.
be away games.
It could be away
I
games
was
for
thinking
the,
field trips because it's a GMS, but I don't know. I'm just wondering.
It said GMS. CHS.
Yeah.
Sounds to me tournament buses, possibly, things of that
I think
nature.
it's just a typo.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. You have those. Do you want me to still email Corey, or is that in the
I can
minutes?
ask him if
And
you want. I've
okay.
got it written down.
Thank you.
Do you want to hold off on approval till the next?
No, I think Corey probably want to get them done. We can still approve them. Can always
Okay.
change it with the other two once we get corrections on it. I'll make a motion to accept the budget transfers for May of 2018. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
I
Opposed, abstain. That'll bring us to principal reports, and we'll start with Mr. Thompson.
Come up with Mars on Mars.
Yeah. And I asked about this.
Well,
You know about that, right?
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Now you know?
Yeah, I think I know.
All right, floor's yours.
Alrighty. I'm going to focus on two areas. I will just ask if anyone had questions about the written principals report, but I'm going to otherwise focus on an update on kindergarten, which was a major goal for the year, and talk a little bit about the opportunity that our staff has taken advantage of for June 25th PD Hour Makeup. It actually has turned into a very positive thing. So are there any questions about the written report?
No, just the numbers keep growing as far as
They do.
kindergarten, first grade.
Yeah. I'm going to budget for an addition, I think, next year. Not yet.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, so I'll begin then with kindergarten update. We're really on track. We have hired our teachers. We've also filled all of the 2 new classroom para positions. So those have been filled. So we are actually all hired up. The one thing that's still kind of on the table is if you recall, we budgeted for 2 special education paraprofessionals. Because we're going to full day, we can't share one between morning and afternoon. And we do anticipate that we will need those, but I think that we can do it. Well, we're still working out assignments, so I guess that's still in process here. The enrollment is, we use 71 in our number, and as you pointed out, we're getting close to that. So I think it was a pretty good estimate. Plans are well underway for the classroom building. We anticipate a middle of July arrival, and then a couple of weeks for the installation, hookup to utilities, that kind of thing. And then we have our general contractor who's going to do other stuff, stairs, ramps, interior work, that kind of thing. They come built, but we still have customization that needs to be done. The kindergarten teachers are really looking at the opportunity that they have now to have a full day program. So one of the things that they've elected to do for their 7 hours for June 25th is they're reading a book called Lifelong Kindergarten. And it's all about expanded conception of really what a kindergarten program can be. They're very excited. They were moving from a 2.5-hour program to a full day. It just opens up lots of things. In addition, we're going to have them, all 4 teachers, in on June 26th and 27th to do curriculum work, to start planning for the new program. So I'm really excited about their involvement.
Do we have a 4th teacher already?
We do. Well, if you've approved it or if it's been approved. I believe we do.
Don't know if we do tonight, Scott. I don't know why, but I don't think I have anybody for nomination for tonight for that position. Maybe it fell through the cracks. I don't know.
Then we're still in the process.
One more board meeting.
I don't know what the date is, but
Are you assuming this person is new or existing?
No, it's an existing
Oh, okay.
teacher.
So it's a
I
reassignment.
don't have anything. No, it's like,
No.
So maybe,
It's just
maybe it's not something that the board does.
Right,
It was
no.
an internal.
oh, it's just a transfer. It's
Yeah.
just, it's just a,
Reassignment.
it's just an
For the
administrative
third
transfer.
Then I misspoke.
For the
So-
third.
Right, 'cause now you have an
So
opening
fourth
somewhere
one?
else.
You
Yes,
have
we
a full-
We do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can you
I
fill
misspoke.
can you tell
Fourth.
us who the fourth is then?
Yes, it's Mrs. Gould, who is the preschool teacher currently.
Oh,
I
nice.
was aware of that.
Nice.
Good.
So I did the PAF, the personnel action
Yeah.
form, to do that transfer. So we held interviews, and now we're in the process of hiring a preschool teacher for that.
That's the
position.
one we'll see.
Yeah, so we haven't had those interviews
Is that for the
yet.
4-year-old preschool?
Yes.
Okay.
yeah. So, oh, good.
As a matter of fact, Scott, honestly, I think Holly came to me and asked if I had to have approval from the school board commission. I said, no, we don't, Holly. It's just an internal transfer, so we just go forward with it. So I was informed of that, and I had a glitch up here for a second, but yeah.
All right, good. Okay, I feel better.
Well, I prevented.
Because I did announce it at the staff meeting today. So okay. So the materials, we have a lot of furniture, books, well, it's really just an addition of, extra resources for current things. Furniture,
Thank
equipment, all the things that will outfit the room. A lot of those have already been ordered because we were able to, because it's a separate warrant article, they could be ordered earlier. And they have in fact begun to arrive, and they're in the 30s building.
Thank you.
So we'll be in good shape. We also, as I reported earlier at another meeting, we do have a schedule that'll allow for separate recess and lunch for the kindergarten without too much expansion of, a need for assistance. Having classroom paras will allow the paras to actually supervise the lunchroom because they have a lunch break and then they can go and supervise the 66 to 71 kindergartners. The other thing is, because this is now finalized, I have done a room utilization plan for the whole building, which I also shared with the staff today at the meeting. The things that we will gain back. When Corey came to visit the elementary, one of the places I took him is the tutoring room, where we have currently 6 tutors sharing a room. It's really very crowded. So I'm going to use the current preschool, because we're going to move both preschools into the current kindergarten classrooms. I'm going to use the current 3-year-old preschool to create a space for enrichment, which currently has none. For the district math tutor, who works primarily with 3rd and 4th grade students. For the Title I tutor, who's going to be working primarily with kindergarten, because that's at that end of the building, and also for ESOL. So that's a really big room. So I'm going to use the existing bookshelves in the library to cordon off, if you will, some workspaces. So that's the kindergarten update. So it's coming along really well.
Scott, can I ask where OT is at the elementary school?
Yeah, OT and PT share a pretty big room right near the 3-year-old preschool. So if you go in the lobby,
Okay.
you go to the left.
Yep.
And then you go in, there's a double
right.
blue door there.
Oh, I thought that's where the 3-year-old preschool was.
So you have to go in and then take a
There's
left.
another
That's
door
the
to get
3-year-old.
So they have a
preschool.
good space, so they're
Yeah.
not, that's awesome.
They have a really big space.
Huge.
Great. Yeah, they need that.
Yeah.
For those
Yeah,
kids.
So
because
does
they
that mean-
actually,
Kids.
I'm sorry.
go ahead.
I was going to ask, so does that mean that the music room is back?
Yes,
to a
so
room?
I'm adding back
Or do we have a
in.
teacher's room
No,
again?
you approved furniture and equipment for the music room 2 years ago.
Mrs.
And
LaBelle's
we-
going to weld it to the floor this time.
Yes, it's going back into room 15, which is the only classroom that does not border another classroom.
Oh,
So
good.
that's going back there. And we will also have a staff room back in room 5,
Oh,
which is the undersized room. It's only about 550 square feet. So it's going to make a really positive change. So,
I have another question.
yes.
Last week we talked about recess space now that the kindergarten.
Yeah.
How much space is going to be left on the hard top for the kids that actually have recess?
Yeah, they'll all have recess, K through 4. And there will be quite a bit of space because I think that the thing is going into the current playground about 30 feet or so. So there'll be less space than we currently have. The thing, meaning the new building.
I know what you meant.
Yeah, sorry. The new building is going to extend into the current playground about 30 feet. I haven't seen exactly.
Mhm.
But that's a fairly big playground. So we also, they have the playground structure in warm months, which, really goes up until
Mhm.
first week of December and then whenever it thaws. And so I think there'll be substantial.
Okay.
We used to have
They're scattered
classes of
in-
about
At
100.
recess anyway, they go out towards the playground, they go out towards the hill, they go
Yeah, they
to the left
slide
of
on
the
the hill.
field.
As long as it's
Our
not mushy.
classes are still smaller. We used to
Yeah.
have 120, 130. Now the biggest one is, that'll remain at GMS is 90.
Yeah,
So,
that.
yeah.
I'm back in the olden days, I think, in my brain.
Right.
Okay, so that's the kindergarten update. And then I just want to talk very briefly, I did give you that printout of activities that staff have kind of stepped up to do for June 25th. It's been really well received, and the other piece of it that is so valuable is that the staff can either do all of their hours in here, or they can do personalized kind of learning. So in addition to these things here, and I'm not going to read you all of them, but we have book groups going on. We have people doing webinars. We have first aid and CPR, which they can do as part of that. As you know, we're mandated to have people at all different kinds of events. We also have people doing FEMA training as part of our emergency response. Those courses each take about 4 hours, and a bunch of us did them last summer, but we have other people on the committee. So I just want to celebrate that it really has provided two things. One is to professionalize the teachers as presenters of information that's really relevant to what we do every day. And it also, it's kept them engaged in that way. And it also allows for personalization. So I think it's a really wonderful model for PD. That's,
Excellent.
unless
Anybody
there
have
are
any questions
questions
for Ms.
about
Thompson?
any aspect.
So one other thing that's exciting, that hopefully is going to happen at GMS, is that swale is going to be corrected where it's going to flow to the street rather than back to the bridge.
Is that what that thing's doing? The tractor thing's doing there?
Yeah. But what
I
the
was on
problem is,
WhatsApp.
it's kind of like the bridge
For a while.
is kind of like sinking a little bit
Yeah.
underneath. So it's going this way instead of going this way. I was talking to Dave today. I know they've been in the process of working on it. So
Where will the
hopefully
mosquitoes go?
across the street to Rich's house.
No, all right.
That's where the water's going
Yeah.
towards.
I was wondering what they were doing.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So hopefully the water that is supposed to dissipate will. And maybe they'll go back and find a Boy Scout troop. Maybe they'll build another bridge that they took down to begin with. So,
Oh, I remember that bridge.
yeah. Since they built the new bridge and
The
they made
kids
it
would
work.
slip on their cleats crossing the
Yeah,
bridge. They
yeah.
were dropping like flies
Aw.
on their little plastic
It'd be nice
cleats.
when that's done and it'll just like hopefully dry it up. That field's been wet the last 2 springs to the point where they haven't
they
been
can't
played
use it.
sports on it. You walk across that field, it's like a sponge.
Looks good though. The fields look good. The weed whacking, everything looks great
So
over there now.
You're pleased.
I'm pleased. I am pleased. I'm glad we have a weed whacker.
Yeah.
Just saying. It does look nice.
Arrange Mr. Lecklider.
I'll send you.
Okay,
this.
thank you. I'm sorry, I just had one question.
Yeah.
Was the spring arts debrief and planning, was that because they don't have common planning time? It just, everything else is an hour, 2 hours. That was 7 hours of debrief.
Yeah, so I know that's a brief description, but they are going to document that they're going to meet 7 hours. And when it says spring arts planning, they actually did whole units of instruction. And this year, the theme was music through the decades. So they went all the way from the 1940s. So they did a song from every decade at every grade level. They did artwork that was related to that. They planned research in the library, Learning Commons, around some of the stuff. The fourth graders did that.
I guess my only concern was we'd hoped it would be technology, not planning. And it's just,
Well, we
It's a
had
lot.
put curriculum work as one of the
Yeah.
things that was allowable, so it seemed to make sense for that team.
Yeah, and I think each principal probably knows their building better than we do, so.
I have to quickly comment, music going back a significant amount of time, back to the 1940s. Just a comment, that's all.
It was a historical study.
Kind of like me, Scott.
Well, I'm going to share that. I knew everything up
You were
till
just
the
trying to get even.
60s. Yeah.
Just trying to get even.
Yeah.
Just like
Okay.
hurry up.
Thank you. I was just going to quit. Well, first of all, I was asked specifically to keep my comments brief tonight, so I will do my best. I'll talk quickly. I just want to highlight a couple recognitions. Busy time of year, a lot of events at the middle school, a lot of events around the district, but a few I just wanted to quickly highlight. The first is our Raiders softball team, Lady Raiders softball team. We moved up to Division II this year, which was a big deal. We've been trying to do that for a while. The boys baseball did really well, competitive. They were about 500. They lost in the first round of the playoffs. Softball team advanced all the way to the championship. Lost a tough one to a very good, strong Wyndham team, but got all the way to the championship. They only lost 2 games all season, had a really successful season. So congratulations to them and Coach LaChance. We also had our drama club performance last week. Mr. Frazier and many students in the drama club did a great job. It was a perfect. The play was called Yearbook. Really perfect middle school play. Kids did a fantastic job, and Steve did a great job with those kids. And then last night we had our spring concert at the high school auditorium. Just want to recognize Miss Late and Mr. Lammy and all of our musicians. We had it's amazing. We have 80 students in 5th grade, and there are 24 kids in the band, just in the band alone. So that's almost a third of the class right there in the band. So congratulations to them and to the students. They did a great job. So I was asked really to highlight the one-to-one model and technology at the middle school. I've mentioned a lot of things over the course of especially the last 5 months, 6 months, as we've gone from in December, the transition to a one-to-one model, and really your support throughout that whole adoption of one-to-one in 8th grade. To be honest, I was very nervous about how that would roll out mid-year. Can't say enough about the teaching team and just how the students and the families, it's really been a joint effort. We're using Google Classroom every day in the 8th grade. And we started the year with an increase in the amount of technology. We had Chromebook labs and just access for teachers. But with now having that 8th grade one-to-one model, that allowed us to move some of those labs out to grades 5 through 7, which really gave them an opportunity to, over the course of the year, to use some of those digital tools that we've been working on and training on. So a lot of what we've been working on is the Google Suite, the Google tools. Jason Pelletier and Brendan Collins have come down and done trainings with the staff on Google. We also have many of our curriculum resources have digital components that we haven't been able to take advantage of to their fullest extent without a one-to-one model. So we've been able to do more of that with Study Sync, with Journeys, with Envisions 2.0, our math program. And as we now think to next year and a full one-to-one model, we're very excited about being able to expand those digital resources now to all 4 grades so that we can really maximize that. We anticipate that with grades 7 and 8, we will be able to roll out the one-to-one pretty much day one. We'll be ready to go. Grades 5 and 6, we are going to kind of roll it in a little slower, especially with grade 5, just all the logistics around that. And the movement and just all of those dynamics. So we'll start the year. Jason and I met this past week. We'll start the year with kind of a hybrid model where the kids will, it'll be a one-to-one model, but probably a couple weeks in, we'll start setting them home with the kids. And just there's so many transitional things for fifth graders, but just getting all of that lined up at the beginning of the year. Let's see. I'm just going to go down the list here, some different bullet points under the one-to-one. So as I said, we've increased our ability to access the digital resources in our curriculum libraries. With the rollout in grade 8 this year, grades 5 to 7 have had more access to the other labs. As far as the end of the year for 8th grade, the 8th graders will bring those, the current 8th grade Chromebooks to Campbell with them next year. Students that are going to private schools or other high schools will collect those at the end of the year. And
So the 8th graders will bring them to the high school?
Next year. Yeah. We will not recollect them. They'll take them with them this summer and they'll bring them. Yep. And they've already signed off all the paperwork and they've fully issued.
I know earlier we had conversations not knowing whether they're going to get turned in, whether they're going to be returned.
Yep.
It makes sense that they just hang on to them.
Do they have access to them, Tom? I know the high school seniors, it said they were going to be turned off, I think, this Friday. Will they be able to use them all summer?
They will. Yeah. And what we've talked about is there's a lot of programs that kids can use in the summer. Even some of our summer programs will be able to take advantage of that. So there's a lot of opportunities with that. Just some areas that we're still looking at training the staff over the next. Scott mentioned the professional development. Some of them are already doing this, but into the fall, Newsela is a great site with a lot of good nonfiction resources. We're going to be doing more training on that. Go Guardian is the site that we use to monitor this and supervise the model. So we'll be doing more training on that as we get into the fall. The other thing I wanted to touch on, which is sort of connected to one-to-one, is what was talked about earlier tonight, the Learning Commons. We've invested a lot of time into that model over the last couple of years. I met with the representatives from Plymouth State just 2 weeks ago with Amy, and they bring a lot to the table. They are the gurus of Learning Commons, and from the beginning, when we started talking about it here, they jumped on board, really liked the direction that Amy was going in, that we were going in, and they've held our feet to the fire. They really, not only to start, it was really just kind of a philosophy of Learning Commons. And now over the last year, you've really seen a change in the physical space, what it looks like in there. There was a question about books earlier tonight. We are moving a lot of those big shelves that are in the middle kind of out so that there's more flexible space there. So just want to thank you for your support this year. Amy has been able to do a lot with the resources that the interactive screen was mentioned earlier. That's been fantastic. The green room. And so maybe in my next report, I'll bring some pictures. If you haven't been in our live Learning Commons, just to kind of
It's
get
so
a
much
visual
smaller than Campbell. I can't even picture it.
Spaces.
They have a green room now. You have a green room?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's in
one
the
of the-
closet.
Oh, perfect.
It is.
That's all you need. That's awesome.
It's green. It's a green closet.
Great.
But you know, with the one-to-one model,
Yeah, you get green one.
we won't need all that. We have more or less a lab in there right now.
Yeah,
we're
yeah,
gonna be able to
that's-
go
maybe
to
that's
more
why
of
it
a
looks so-
stations type model.
That's
That'll
awesome.
open that space up. So,
'Cause
so thank you for your support with all of that. And Amy has a to-do list she's working through this summer. But the cleansing of the books is a big project. As you can imagine, those encyclopedias are.
Yeah, they have you too.
Cleansing
So.
of the books.
What year are your encyclopedias?
They might be pre-2000. What was it?
11?
11.
Yeah, 11. Yeah, I think.
All right. I have
That's
a question if
Sure.
you're done. And I think it's for all of us because we've had goals on the agenda of the school board meetings every time since I've started. And
It's a placeholder.
it's a placeholder, I know. And and thank you for producing your reports about the goals. And I look at goal number 1 and goal number 2, which are highly specific and measurable, right? But maybe they're not so relevant. And I'm just wondering if, because, part of like the NEWA that, the goal was to increase 1% annually, but I think in your comment, Mr. Thompson, you said like, the results vary from year to year. NEWA is not ideally used as a fall to fall measure. So that's, in my mind, that's like, okay, that goal is not really a relevant goal. And have you guys bought into it? It seems like, it's not measurable. So why was that even a goal? Is it an old goal? Was it not updated? Same with the second one where the goal had to do with a test that is no longer conducted. It ended in last year, I guess, right? So I think that what I've heard so far is these have been rolling goals. I think we've just kind of updated them, each year. And so I'm just trying to figure out, are these school board goals? I'm hoping that they're collaborative goals, and just like for whoever wants to answer, what are we envisioning going forward with the goal setting process, of course, with Mr. Jetty.
And I think so the principals they gave the report on goals because the question came up as far as goals, where is this for a year? And yeah, they are collaborative goals between the superintendent, the principals, the school board will give direction. And like I had conversation with Jim a few times that once Mike comes on and once he gets settled, I mean, that's one of the focuses we'll work on because they are fluid and they're going to change. If you have a test, right now you're measuring a test that you no longer do. So obviously there's a goal that'll go, something else will come in. The board will give suggestions, what do we want to see as far as goals? And between all of us, we'll come up with a set of goals that is attainable, that is measurable, and it is going to lead the district into the direction we want it to go into.
And we don't want you spending time answering to a goal that is irrelevant.
Doesn't mean anything, right?
I mean?
Exactly. And that's why they will have to be looked at. Just no different than the competencies will be looked at.
Right.
There's a lot of work to do.
I have a feeling they'll change a lot. They'll be updated. You have a lot of fresh ideas, I think. Okay. Thank you.
And then just to finish, I wanted to echo what Scott said about the professional development. I've just been amazed at the variety, the staff. It's very useful. We have everything from book studies, as was mentioned, to curriculum work, curriculum design units, content literacy. I mentioned things like Newsela, some of those digital tools, training around that, Google, emergency operations. So it's been very beneficial, and we have teachers teaching teachers. We have teacher leaders that are coordinating studies. So it's been
Scott's the same thing.
Terrific use of the time.
Mrs. Sabonis is going to be pretty busy. Mrs. Sabonis seems like she's going to be pretty busy.
Yeah.
I think she's going to exceed her hours.
Well, some are exceeding their hours, actually. Yeah.
She's up there for a few things.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Solano.
Excellent. So, first of all, following up on what Jim said earlier with respect to our academic excellence, I did want to touch on that for our seniors. It was an amazing ceremony, and I think one of the things it really speaks to is the connections that get established between our teachers and our students.
Absolutely.
You witnessed that with your daughter last year.
Yeah.
The presentations by the teachers were just amazing and true to who those kids were. So it was just a really nice ceremony. So we are doing a spring award ceremony Friday morning at 7:45. If anyone's interested, you're invited to come along and see what that looks like. We're excited about that.
That's next Friday, right?
That's this coming Friday.
This Friday.
Is the underclassmen awards, the spring awards. Yep. I wanted to touch on what Scott said with respect to hiring. I know this isn't part of what I'm technically supposed to talk about, but we're in the process of interviewing for social studies and English teachers tomorrow. And we have been interviewing science teachers for our freshman science position, and we have a candidate in mind right now who's down in Philadelphia. He's coming up next week, so we're going to be interviewing him again face-to-face to get a better feel for what he might bring to the table. Also working with Devin in our school psychologist position as well as the case manager position. So those things are underway. I also wanted to mention graduation next Friday, 6 o'clock.
Are you watching the weather?
keep your fingers crossed.
Oh, jeez.
Okay, we're not doing what we did last year, but good weather, that's what we'd like.
Still says thunderstorm.
Yeah.
Does it? Oh.
Oh, there's plenty.
It only matters what happens at
I wasn't
7:30 in the
going- I wasn't
morning.
going to. That's what happened last year.
Yes.
In the year before, in the year,
Two prior years.
one
were
year,
outside.
Your fingers crossed.
to fact you have to make the call at 7:30 in the morning for 6 o'clock at
That's
night
tough.
is off. You can't win.
Well, I haven't checked the weather yet.
We still have a low time.
So anyway, just a reminder, we're excited about that coming up. I also wanted to mention graduation hats. I have given the students permission to decorate their caps this year. So that notice went out to parents and to seniors, and there are specific guidelines they need to follow. It is a trial for this year, and we'll reevaluate and reassess as we go through next year. But the one thing that kept coming to my mind was about personalizing kids' graduation experience, and everything about graduation in terms of the setup and its operation. What happens is about adults doing what we think is best for the kids. But this gives them a chance to have a little bit of voice in this, and we know what our kids are like. They're going to do a tremendous job doing everything for that. So I'm interested to see what that looks like. There were concerns by the staff that every graduation class has their picture taken as a class without decorations. We don't want this one, and we've addressed that so that next Wednesday evening, before we do the senior awards, that they'll have the graduation picture taken then, and parents will be invited in to take a picture of the class if they want to as well. So I'm looking forward to that. And good weather. Okay, so I'm going to keep it short as far as NEASC. When I first came in August, I received my letter from George Edwards up at the Commission on Public Schools at NEASC, and I sat there and I knew this was coming. But,
yay!
Yeah, right. So that's basically August. By November, we were deep into that process. It was essentially a year and a half's worth of work that started in November of 2016. However, the teachers had begun working on this 2 to 3 years before that, looking at our core values and beliefs and learning expectations. So they had already done a fair amount of work establishing those values. There were key faculty involved, primarily Aaron Brown and Heidi Paris, who were the coordinators of that. They are my NEASC gurus. They have been completely through this, but we've had great support from the teachers, from the support staff, from the school board, from Jim, from the administration of the school. So it has been a challenging, but I will say the challenge was really having to forego some of the other professional development that we really wanted to do in the course of that time. And it's not that we completely set things aside, but certainly some of the things that were important to teachers about assessment, instruction, and curriculum were set aside to some degree, large or small, in order to accomplish this. And it's not that, again, as I said, it's not that we didn't do anything. There was work on ELOs and Narcan training and opioid challenges and EpiPens and teacher evaluation process and all those things. We were doing those things, but not to the degree that the teachers really needed. However, most of our delayed openings and our workshop days were related to the NEASC. And I will say that the teachers just did an amazing job. When you do the NEASC, as Mike would know, he's on a number of those, and a number of you probably have been involved. It is a challenging process to do your self-study. They've whittled down the standards to 7. But when you start looking at those standards and the number of indicators in there, and then you have to start assessing your school, and then you have to gather evidence to support the conclusions you've come to, it is a really, really challenging task. And that's where I say between Aaron and Heidi and then the teachers, they just did a remarkable job of putting the self-study together to facilitate the visitation. I will say that in terms of budgeting, that was probably where we dropped the ball the most. Maybe one of those budget transfers was about NEASC. And we were probably $2,000 over budget with respect to the NEASC. Part of that was the team was larger than I anticipated it would be, so more hotel rooms, more mileage, more meals and things of that nature. But it was a little bit more expensive than we had originally anticipated. In terms of moving towards the visitation, I will say that Elena A., my caretaker, was a terrific resource because we not only had to make sure the school was prepared and take care of sort of some of the facility stuff, supplies, food, coffee, make all those types of things, but also in terms of going to the hotel and making sure they had those things. So Elena did a really good job of preparing for those things. Also, the IT department in terms of meeting the needs for a projector, meeting the needs for a shredder, meeting the needs for some of the other things that they needed in the connection to the internet to do their work. They were really terrific. Jason and Brendan and Andrea were outstanding. And that was the week that Jason got married.
Oh,
so
yes.
Prior to that, he just did a tremendous job of setting us up so we didn't have to call him as he was on his wedding day.
And he came back that Saturday when I was out planting flowers. I'm like, he was going on and on about it. And he goes, oh, and I got married. I'm like, what? I swear. And he was back to work on Saturday. He's amazing.
So they really did.
Yes.
Good guy.
So then it came to the visit. And I will tell you that the first day was the easiest. Sunday was the easiest. We had the schedule set up. We came in, we did a presentation. They interviewed the teachers. They interviewed, as you know, the school board and parents. And then we had the welcoming reception. The next 3 days after that, there was a lot going on. And I will tell you, they did as good a job as they could, those 12 people, with not being interested. Now they were shadowing kids. They were doing interviews. They were all over the building. It wasn't like, I think there were two small areas in which we had challenges with teachers being concerned about some of the things that were occurring. And when you look at 12 strangers in your building doing the work they were doing, it was pretty remarkable that that's all we had to deal with. I did have daily meetings with the chair and the assistant chair, 15 to 30 minutes of, okay, how's it going? How are you doing? Are you holding up? Here's what we need. Here's what we need. Here's what we need. And that, again, it went really well. But the long and short of this is that they're going to come back at some point in the next couple of weeks with a draft of what they saw when they were here. And if you've been on a NEASC visitation, one of the things you know is on the last day, they want to get out of Dodge. They don't want to be there. So their presentation was at 2:30 at the end of the school day to the faculty. And they tend to keep those remarks pretty cryptic and vague and generalized. So they pointed out some things that we do really well at Campbell. They absolutely talked about our kids connecting with their teachers and loving their school. They talked about the teachers really caring hugely about the students and how important that relationship was. There was a general comment about our parents and how they believe the school supports the kids and does a great job with the students. Our core values, the fact that we live by those: courage, character, respect, responsibility. Absolutely, they indicated that. There were some observations about some of the things that were a little bit challenging. You know, our core values and beliefs about learners. That wasn't emphasized enough in our classrooms and in our activities and things of that nature. She reflected the idea that teachers need common planning time, need the opportunity to work together. And this was one that was anticipated by me, but which was about professional development. And she and I even had a conversation about what does PD mean for teachers when you're in the middle of this incredibly difficult process of preparing for this. And she said, yeah, probably one of the things you need to do is find that balance. Being a new principal, maybe it was a little more difficult for me to find that balance. She talked about teachers understanding technology, formatives and summatives. There were strengths in those areas. And one of the things I picked up on, and I think it's important that they did, is about that we're a resilient community. Given some of the challenges with Andrea this past year, we've moved forward in a good way despite that. So I think that was it was something that was obvious that we've moved forward, but was also something we noticed. Again, these comments were not comments that were particularly incisive. I know that they're going to see some real strengths in our school, and I know they're going to see some challenges for us. So I'll get to see that report first. We'll have some conversations with Linda about that. And then probably, I would imagine, in a couple of months' time, we'll get the final report back from NEASC.
Bill, do you think they were talking about common planning time for team teaching? Because I know team teachers do not have common planning time. And when you have 40 to 50 kids in a classroom, that's going to be,
Absolutely.
They are going to go right after that. Absolutely. I can sense it.
Yeah, but I also think,
but we have such a small
common
school.
planning time for teachers in general,
Yeah.
Okay, that's one of the things that you see in schools that's really beneficial is if you can schedule and provide teachers teaching common areas.
But it's so hard because we're such a small school.
Correct. We're a small school. It's and we're going to at some point down the road possibly decrease in size, so you have to pay attention to those things as well. But there are creative things you can do in schedules and ways you can look at.
Yeah.
So, but you know, I walked away at the end of the week knowing that they saw some really terrific things going on in the school, and I also know that they saw some of the unique challenges that we have at Campbell. I will say this, that when I did a presentation back in December, it was the most meaningful professional development experience I've done in a long time. It was incredibly rewarding and eye-opening. So I know that what we are going to get out of this from that team is going to be a set of objectives for ourselves to work on when we think about professional development and we think about direction and vision for the school. I know that what they're going to come back with will provide us some strong basis for some of the things that we can do better and some of the things
great.
we're doing well.
For Mike and our new curriculum director.
Absolutely.
Win-win.
Yeah. So in a nutshell, that's, you know, a year and a half's worth of work, 4 days of torment. And hopefully we'll see the report in a couple of months and be able to report some good things. As far as the professional development, I'm going to sort of pipe in the same way that Tom and that Scott did. Our teachers are doing some amazing things with this work, and it was initially I was one of the things I decided I would do is I was actually provide a number of opportunities to do a principals roundtable and to have conversations about some things to give them a chance for some 1 hour opportunities. So I actually did one which was a discussion of an article by Mike Schmoker, who's a national renowned educator, about why I'm against innovation in education. And given one-to-one and technology and all the cool things that are out there, I had 3 faculty members come and talk with me about, you know, what does innovation mean? And is it about technology or is it about the newest fad, the newest trends and those types of things? And so we did one on that. We did one on student discipline with respect to vaping, which is a real problem in many schools, and we have a problem at Campbell as well. And also about sexting. Another challenging topic to deal with in schools. And then the other one was on the emotional drain of teaching, playing along with or working along with that idea of anxiety and stress, and a related article about building an empathetic school, creating an empathetic school. And so I did 3 of those, and I've got 2 others that I'm going to do before the school year's over, just for those people might be interested in some of those topics. But my teachers, curriculum work on family and consumer science, doing dual enrollment with National Community College and SNU, using WeVideo for multimedia stuff, more educational apps, those things. One of my world languages teacher doing incredible webinars. Then she's going to use as a basis for creating presentations to the other world language teachers about ways to use the things she's learning in classes. We've got alignment of the physics curriculum with Project Running Start. It's not currently aligned with that, but our teacher is certified to do that. So she's going to take the curriculum and revise it according to the standards so we can get Running Start credits. And again, it's a similar thing. It's book studies on anxiety and resilience. It's about things that are personal to individual teachers or to groups of teachers. So it's been I think it's been a good opportunity for teachers to do some meaningful work they care about, that they're interested in. And I think when you think about professional development, there's one that's driven by schools and districts, but there's one where you empower the teachers and give them some leadership on it. I think this is an important piece of them seeing some things that are important as well. So.
Any questions from Ms. Lonnie?
Well, early forecast is cloudy, high of 60, low of 40.
Cloudy is okay.
I want to say to all 3 principals that I think the principal reports this evening were probably more informative. And I know we gave you the topic of, you know, professional development, and you kind of like hit on that, but a lot of the information that the 3 of you provided is really kind of like what the board's looking for. You know, what's happening in your school? What's the state of your school? And those are the kind of things we're looking for. And I would say, like I said, when I first saw the reports, I had 3, then it was 2, then it was 1. But this has been very informative. I mean, for myself anyway. I'm not certain how the rest of the
Oh,
board
I
feels.
absolutely, yeah.
And that's what we're looking for is what's the state of the school? What is happening? What are you doing different in your school? And what can we do for you? And what are your challenges? That's what we're looking for. And I think the home audience is probably feeling the same way, especially now that we're live on YouTube. So thank you very much.
Before they go, can I just bring up, because I feel bad I missed it in the school board. Thank Carolyn. The Memorial Day concert was wonderful at the town hall. I totally forgot that during the previous session.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I
Jill
think,
Pennington was there
Orson
too.
Van
Jill
was
DeLoe, I mean, yeah.
Carolyn's, she coordinated our Memorial Day ceremony. Then she went over to that. Last night we had our concert. Tonight she's got the high school. It's
She's amazing
She's
too.
Did a great job.
Yeah.
It's just seeing him out there with the gentleman in the Marine Corps. Great day.
Thank you.
She received our Golden Bell Award.
Ooh.
And part of the reason for her receiving that, this is not a knock on anyone, but the teacher who gave it to her is Jen Watson. Jen said, "It's so nice to hear them playing," and she's across the hall from them. And then it's so nice to hear them even when they're not supposed to be playing. I'm hearing such good music from them. And so it was just interesting to see that Carolyn has brought a different perspective, and the kids are really working hard, and there's just some good things going on.
Of course, I put my foot in my mouth because I forgot Jill with the chorus.
Yes,
but
yeah,
Jill,
well,
I'm
right,
sorry.
Absolutely, yeah, no, yep. Yeah.
I would say invite her to next September, come down to LMS when the 5th graders start playing their music. And see,
See what it's like.
I walked in here on enough occasions and 5th grade playing.
Yeah, what you saw last night is
be a
not where they
saint to get
sat.
through that. That's,
Still though, at the concert last night, I was really
I'm talking.
impressed.
Oh, she always impresses.
I'm talking about their first couple
There
of
were a
weeks.
couple of squeaky reads.
That's what you can't find Tom anywhere near the.
No, they did a really good job. They really, and she brings the
amazing
best
to
out of those kids.
Really
Yeah.
good.
She really
Just
does.
watching the transition, especially if you had someone.
Oh,
like
I
you
did. Yeah,
I mean,
I
from
did.
5th grade to 6th to 7th
Yeah.
to 8th, by the time they hit 8th, it's phenomenal.
Yeah, we had our Great East Music Festival last week, and the Grammy Award winning
Jared,
music director came and did he was one of the judges, and the feedback he gave them was very positive, but just his reaction to what those kids are doing was.
I was told I couldn't go.
What's that?
Oh, I sent my husband. He
Did you?
went. Yeah.
I was told don't go.
Yeah, he was very impressed with like you said, the feedback.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
It's valuable.
Excellent.
Pretty outstanding.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you. All right, I believe we have 3 policies that we want to just approve on with changes.
Yeah, the policies are the job descriptions, which one the policies next?
Job descriptions.
Job descriptions, yeah. The job descriptions are just recognizing a minor change in organization at the SAU. Colleen has always been reporting to Holly, and she works 90% of the time with Holly. And in the original job description, it was Colleen reporting to the business administrator. So we made the change to reflect the actual operational events that are going on. So we had Colleen now report directly to Holly, and Holly supervising Colleen. And it's just to align the job description with the actual reality. That's what we're doing. So
And just to clarify, it's the payroll portion.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, payroll. I'm sorry.
That's right.
Payroll to HR.
We'll report to HR.
So that's all this is. There's no other major changes in there. So
I'll make a motion to change all 3 job descriptions: business administrator, director of human resources, and payroll coordinators. And they're all tied in. It's all just a couple of words here and there.
yes.
I'll second it.
Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain. Now we have policy JEG, age of entrance.
Yeah, the age of entrance policy, what we did was we had council read through the draft that we had showed you, and we wanted to bring this back to you before I left because I'm the one who really initiated this dialogue. And this is really an updated policy that was suggested by council in order to be clearer in terms of exactly what our intent would be if you adopt this policy. It's not any different than what we had said earlier, September 30th, and there would be exceptions made and then there were specific reasons why we would make exceptions, but under no circumstances would we make any exception beyond October 30th. So 31st. So I don't know as I'm looking for an approval of this policy tonight as much as I'm informing you of this is the final draft of the policy that we're bringing forward to you. You may wish to have a bigger dialogue with Mike when Mike comes on board prior to adopting this policy. I don't know. I don't think it has any real impact at this point for the coming year. We've dealt with a situation that seems to have resolved itself without any issues. But I think in the future, the major difference here is that your current policy has an absolute date at the end of September with no exceptions. This policy does allow for some consideration of exceptions for certain students based on a particular assessment of the student's ability to work, be successful at an earlier age. So I think you probably want to do a little bit of thinking about this and come to a final conclusion.
Yeah, I guess one of my first questions is, rather than having a date of October 31st, can we not just have a clause in saying that the superintendent can override? Or did legal say put a date in there?
I think it's important from my perspective that you have an absolute date as a school board, that you say there shall be no exceptions beyond this date. Or I think you put the superintendent in a very precarious situation of having to make decisions. A parent might think this December is a good date or January is a good date, or I've got a savant for a child. And I think it's good to have an absolute date that the board says.
Academically.
And the board can always waive policy, keep that in mind if it so decides. But I think an absolute date of the end of October is appropriate.
So these decisions would be made at the superintendent's discretion? So if a child applies and goes through the process, then it's the superintendent's decision, or?
I think ultimately it's a superintendent's decision to be made. I think the actual data and information is clearly going to be collected by the experts at the level of the elementary level, kindergarten level, and those assessments have to be defined. We really haven't defined those assessments at this point in time. And then I would think that any decision by the superintendent would be fully informed by the decision of the experts. And then the superintendent would make that decision, and I think it would work well that way.
So those are my two questions. Is it going to be like set in stone? You take the knee away, you interview with there'll be a set policy.
I think we have to have a procedure that would be pretty clear so that parents would understand exactly what the procedure was, and that has to be defined so that we did talk about assessments that we could use. And to be candid with you, there was some real concern about the validity of some of the assessments that are used at really early childhood. And so we really didn't get anything in writing. So I think that has to be done. That's work that has to be done between now and say a year from
And I think my only
spring.
I think with Brian, I just thought that I didn't know if we could go to it seemed that you have that parent that says November 1st. I missed it, but I didn't know if maybe we go to the same thing, first of the year. So it just.
No, and I think that's why you have an absolute date in there, the 31st. First, we used to have just September 30th.
Yeah.
So
Well, no,
now-
that's why when I read it first, I was wondering if you go December. That's the first thing I thought of. Just I don't know.
And then you're really pushing it out there.
Yeah.
I think we can think about it. I don't think it's keep in mind, how many kids does this affect? I mean, we've had one earlier this year that potentially was, and I haven't heard of another one since.
And the experts in that situation, we did collect data from the experts, the teachers, et cetera. And once we collected the data, it's pretty clear what the right decision was.
A child could be academically gifted. I had a student reading at a 6th grade level in kindergarten, but she thought she was a horse. So emotionally, she wasn't ready.
Huh?
Yeah, so there's a whole bunch of things.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
it's
not
true.
just academic. It's social,
It is. I mean,
emotional,
I think
stage
that-
development,
'cause it all-
academic stage development, physical stage
It's more than just reading.
Right, it is. It's so,
And I think it is the
affects the rest
exception
of
to
their
your rule.
academic
This
career,
is
yeah.
not something you're going to see with frequency. I think it's the exception to the rule that's there for that individual student that truly does need the
Mhm.
exception. On the other hand, I think it's really clear to parents that the vast majority of students, the end of September is your deadline.
Yep.
And I think most of the literature on boys would indicate that, probably with boys, they're probably better off to be a little bit late to get to school than
June.
early to get to school. I don't mean time-wise every day, but I think sometimes it's good.
I think it's something we can think about and bring
Yeah.
back.
Yeah.
It's nothing we need to be in a hurry about whether or not we
No, I
want
don't
to do that
think so.
expansion.
You've got time because it won't have any any implementation until a year from this past spring.
Yep.
But anyway, this was what was recommended by the attorney, and certainly Mike and you folks can have deliberation about what you want to do, or if you want to do anything. And ultimately, it is your policy.
Excellent. All right. That'll bring us to public input. Hearing none, we're going to non-public. RSA 91-A 311. The dismissal, promotion, or compensation of any public employee, or the disciplining of such employee, or the investigation of any charges against them, unless the employee affected, one, has the right to the meeting, and two, requests that the meeting be open. Yes, we're non-public.